Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles, and I welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, and entertainment, where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. So yesterday, the Clippers and the Lakers played. And once again, the Lakers lost to the Clippers, making it the third straight loss to the Clippers this season. Remember, in-conference teams in the same conference play each other 4 times a year, right? So they've already played the Clippers 3 times this season, and they've lost all of them. And the first loss dates back to December 3rd. And I think in that game, if I'm not mistaken, Paul George played in that game, right? So you could say, well, the Clippers played a great game. They have Paul George and all of this stuff. But in this particular game, they didn't have Paul George. And I think most people going into that game would have, if you had to make a bet, you would have probably bet that the Lakers were going to beat the Clippers because obviously the Lakers have more talent. The Clippers are without their 2 stars. So why would you pick against the Lakers to lose that game? And that is exactly what happened. And I think it's totally embarrassing that the Lakers somehow found a way to lose that game with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard not even playing. Now, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were in the building. They were in attendance, but they didn't lace him up. And there's just no real, at a certain point, it has to stop. Has to stop because the Lakers had 2 All-Stars. Although they didn't have Anthony Davis, you're not going to use that. Well, we didn't have AD. That's not a good. Even if you just had Russell Westbrook by himself, you should have been able to topple the Clippers. But in this case, you had LeBron and Russell Westbrook, and somehow, some way, they found a way to lose. And I think there's some good explanations for why they keep losing to the Clippers. Number one, I think they're losing to the Clippers simply because the Clippers are a better constructed basketball team with better coaching. No one is going to argue against the fact that Tyronn Lue is probably arguably probably the best coach in the NBA. Last year, he proved that to me in the NBA playoffs. He did a masterful job at being able to coach that team to the Western Conference Finals after they lost Kawhi Leonard in Game 4 against the Utah Jazz. It was just unbelievable. So Tyronn Lue is a hell of a basketball coach. Excellent coach in making adjustments in games and in between games, especially in the playoff. He is a magician at doing that, right? So the Clippers clearly have the better coach, and the Clippers are just a better constructed roster. The Clippers, I spent the entire year analyzing that team last year, and if you look at the way that their roster is constructed, they basically have an amalgamation of small forwards and guards that can play on both sides of the floor. If you look at the list of players that the Clippers have, they basically have a bunch of 2-way players that can defend and stretch the basketball floor. I think last year, think about this. Last year, I want you guys to mull this over for a moment. Last year, the Clippers have, I believe it was 8 or 9 players shooting above 40% from the 3-point line. It's another reason why they were able to beat them last night because apart from the fact that they built this roster in a great way, they have a great offensive philosophy. Their offense is predicated on ball movement and player movement. If you look at the Clippers' offense, it's a fluid offense, and it's an equal opportunity type of offense. This is one of the reasons that yesterday they finished the game with 7 players in double digits. 7 players. 7 different players finished that game in double digits, and that just tells me that this team has a balanced attack. If you look at the Lakers, on the other hand, they only had 5 players to finish with double digits or more. The Lakers are simply not a good basketball team. We don't need any more evidence. I think they play close to 60 games at this point. They're not a good basketball team, right? They don't play any defense whatsoever. As I said it before in some previous videos, the Lakers are giving up more points on average to opponents than they're scoring. That is inexcusable. That for a basketball team, on average, opponents are outscoring you. That's just terrible. Right? It's not good at all. And I think there's blame to go all around in that Lakers, in the Lakers organization. You got to blame management because management played a role in putting that team together, but you also got to blame the players for playing like garbage. There's no good excuse that the Lakers have 2 top 75 players that are perfectly healthy, and you lose to a Clippers team without Paul George and Kawhi. There's no let me put it this way: if the shoe were on the other foot, and if it was the reverse, and it was that the Clippers lost to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George was not a top 75 player, by the way, and they lost with them too, and the Lakers didn't have any of their stars, the media would be tap dancing on top of the Clippers' heads. It would be that embarrassing, and I think there's blame to go all the way around. I think at this point, I think the Lakers are in serious jeopardy of missing the playoffs entirely. I really believe so. As we currently speak, they're the 9th seed in the Western Conference, but it's not just that they're the 9th seed. It's who they're trailing. They're trailing the Clippers in the 8th seed. So if they were to go into the play-in tournament, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to play each other. I think they're going to play. I don't remember the play-in tournament format exactly because yes, last year was the first time that they implemented it. But they're going to play them. They're going to most likely put them in the play-in tournament. And based on some of the rumors that have been kind of circulating out there, there's some rumors out there that Paul George will most likely return and Kawhi Leonard will most likely return. So if the Lakers cannot beat the Clippers as they are right now, which is depleted and without their best player, and they clearly had more talent on the floor, what makes you think in your right mind that they're going to be able to beat the Clippers when Paul George and Kawhi Leonard go? So if they were to play each other in the play-in tournament, the Clippers are going to beat them easily. And if Paul George and Kawhi Leonard return, in my personal opinion, I think that if they make it out of the play-in tournament and they get into the playoffs as the 8th seed, for example, I think that they would beat any single team that they face in the first round. That includes the Golden State Warriors. That includes the Phoenix Suns. I'm sorry. I just believe that. They took the Phoenix Suns last year to 6 games. Not something because they were a better team. Yeah, I understand that. But nevertheless, they are a better team this year. But last year, they were able to push them to a game 6 without Kawhi Leonard. Think about that for a second. They played the entire Western Conference Finals without their best player, and they were still able to push the Phoenix Suns to 7 games, to 6 games. So this season, if they were to bring back a healthy Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, I would take Kawhi. Listen, people don't really understand how strongly I feel about Kawhi. I would take Kawhi Leonard in this series over Stephen Curry, over Devin Booker any day of the week. Any day of the week. Kawhi Leonard proved that he could beat these guys. So I don't understand. Like he already beat Stephen Curry. So why would I pick against Kawhi? I would take him over them. Now I think the Warriors would be the tougher contest. I think it would be 2 very entertaining series, given the fact with the Paul George and Devin Booker kind of element. Because remember Paul George and Devin Booker used to go at it back and forth, especially last season. I would take them. I think Kawhi Leonard's real competition this year, if he comes back, I think is in the Eastern Conference. This is just my opinion. Some people can feel a type of way, whatever. I mean, that's just my opinion, and we're all entitled to our opinion. I think the real competition is he's looking at teams like Philly, of course, the Milwaukee Bucks, which I would love to see Kawhi versus Giannis Antetokounmpo in the finals, and the Brooklyn Nets. I think that's where the competition really lies. The Western Conference this year has been a disappointment, right? For a plethora of reasons. Number one, obviously, injuries played a role. I think Jamal Murray's not back yet with the Denver Nuggets, so that played a role. Kawhi Leonard is not back. I think Chris Paul now is just suffering a hand injury. And then, of course, Anthony Davis is out. But to me, I just think that, listen, the Clippers come back and they're healthy. That's the team I'm picking. But if we're talking about the Lakers, I think it's a total embarrassment. And something has to give. Like, somebody has to take ownership of this mess. And given the fact that LeBron is the head of the ship, the captain of the ship, you got to take the blame, because if the Lakers right now are the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, LeBron James fans and LeBron James supporters will be in the comment section telling me that he's going to win his 5th championship and pass Michael Jordan. So if you're going to be willing to give him the credit that they're winning, make sure you're also willing to give him the blame when they lose, when he's losing. That's all I ask. Be fair with your man. So these are my thoughts and opinions, and what I want to know from you guys. What do you think about this? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamers Pro. Wishing you guys an amazing day and catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.